If you're getting ready to take the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery or the ASVAB, you probably have some questions like what happens if your score is too low to enlist? Is it possible to get a waiver, and how will that affect your job opportunities? Well, stick with me and I'll answer these questions and more. Welcome to the U.S. Military Test Prep channel by Study.com. My name is Corey, I'm a Seaburn Specialist in the U.S. Army Reserve and an ASVAB Test Prep expert. In today's video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about ASVAB waivers and if you can still get the military job you want. Let's get into it. Before we get into waivers, let's cover a primary factor that determines whether you'll need one, your ASVAB score. The ASVAB is a test the military uses to determine both your eligibility for enlistment and which jobs you qualify for. One of the most important scores from this test is the Armed Forces Qualifying Test, or AFQT score. This determines whether you can enlist at all, with each military branch setting its own minimum requirement. Let's talk numbers and take a closer look at the minimum AFQT score you need in order to enlist in each branch of the military. Generally speaking, this is the way it works. A high school diploma or GED is typically required to qualify for most branches of the military. The required score can vary based on which credentials you have. If you've passed the GED exam, you'll need to aim for a score of at least 50 for most branches in general. One exception is the Navy. With a high school diploma, the required scores tend to vary a bit more across different branches. In most cases, you'll need a minimum score of 31 for the Air Force, Army, and Marine Corps. The Coast Guard generally requires a 36, which is the highest required AFQT score. If you want to enlist in the Navy, you'll need at least a 35 with a diploma or GED. Without one of those, you'll need a score of 50. Now, not everyone's score is high enough to qualify for the job that they want, or sometimes even for the military at all. That's where ASVAB waivers come into play. Waivers may be an option for individuals who didn't quite meet the standard requirements under certain conditions. But before you get too excited, there's a lot you need to know about how these waivers actually work. So why does this matter? Well, your ASVAB score doesn't just determine whether you can enlist, it also plays a huge role in what jobs you qualify for. If you have a specific career in mind, you need to know whether a waiver will help you or if it could limit your options. Each branch of the military has different rules regarding waivers. Some are more lenient than others, and they take multiple factors into account. These include your overall application, education background, other test scores, and even current recruiting needs. In some cases, a waiver might get you into the military, but it won't necessarily qualify you for the job you originally wanted. Let's break down the key details you need to know. You're probably wondering, who can get an ASVAB waiver? Well, ASVAB waivers are given on a case-by-case basis. It's important to remember that they are not guaranteed. Even if you meet the eligibility requirements, it doesn't mean you'll be automatically approved. Each branch of the military has its own policies, so I recommend checking with a recruiter from the branch you want to join to find out the specific regulations. The military may also consider other strong qualifications such as high school GPA, prior work experience, or leadership potential. Recruitment needs can also influence waiver approvals, but each waiver is evaluated individually, considering multiple factors. So how does an ASVAB waiver affect your job options? This is the big question. Can you still get the job you want? The answer is maybe. A waiver might help you enlist, but it doesn't automatically qualify you for any positions. If your ASVAB scores are too low for a specific job, you may need to choose a different career path. Sometimes you may have the opportunity to retake the ASVAB after enlisting and qualify for a job change later in your career. But opportunities depend on job openings and branch policies. Plus, there's always the risk that your waiver won't be approved, so it's important to have a backup plan. So if you're considering an ASVAB waiver, what should you do next? First, talk to a recruiter for the branch you want to join. They can tell you exactly what your options are based on your scores and which jobs are available. If they think you might be eligible for a waiver, they will be able to tell you how to apply for one. If your scores are close but not quite there, consider retaking the test. You'll need to wait 30 days before your first 2 retakes, and after that, it's a 6-month wait if you want to try again. So use the time you have to your advantage. Let's talk about some steps you can take to improve your scores and better position yourself to qualify for enlistment and the jobs you want. First, pinpoint weak areas. Look at which subtests brought your score down. Next, study smarter. Spend more time on the sections you struggled with, especially the ones involved in computing the minimum scores for the jobs you are aiming for. Using good study resources can also make a huge difference. Study.com's ASVAB test prep resources can help with personalized plans and practice tests to get you on track. In fact, 92% of users pass the ASVAB after prepping with Study.com. Taking a practice test can zero in on what you know and what you don't. Watch lessons to review material you are less confident in, and if you feel like you know a topic well, do some practice problems and quiz yourself. If you notice that you're missing a lot, try going back and reviewing the lesson to make sure you know the material. A solid prep plan can always help boost your score. If you're prepping for the ASVAB, consider using Study.com's ASVAB study guide and test prep resources and focus on what you need to study. And remember, even if you don't get the score for the role you wanted, there might be other jobs that could be a good fit for you. The goal is to maximize your strengths. That's it for today. Remember, getting a waiver is not a guaranteed ticket to your dream job, but can be a helpful step toward enlistment. If your scores aren't where you want them to be, take the time to study and improve your chances. If this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment with any questions or topics you want us to cover, and don't forget to subscribe for more US military test prep content. Stand by, stay frosty. I'll see you in the next one.